In 1839, William H. Fox Talbot, an archaeologist and inventor, took paper and soaked it in salt and silver nitrate. The silver in the paper turned dark, making a negative which aided to make a positive on a piece of light-sensitive paper. And so, thus started the beginnings of film. But it took one man, an Edward Muybridge, to give it the magic it needed. Who it needed was the illusionist and imaginative filmmaker, Georges Méliès. Growing up with a family of 4, they interestingly had a thing for shoes. As a kid, he drew mechanical drawings caricaturing his professors and classmates, as well as whole landscapes, which resembled the kind of world he'd revisit when making his films. When he was 10, Méliès built cardboard puppet theaters. After graduating from the prestigious Lycée Louis-le-Grand, Méliès joined his older brothers in the family shoe business, where he learned how to sew. Following 3 years of mandatory military service, he in London visited the Egyptian Hall, which was ran by the local illusionist John Neville Maskelyne. This is how he developed his lifelong passion for stage magic. In 1884, my main man, Nikola Tesla, worked on the telephony and electrical field before immigrating to the United States in June of that year to work for Thomas Edison. He'll be back. The next year, in Georges' usual rebellious nature, married the daughter of a family friend, Eugénie Génin, who had required a hefty dowry from her relatives. Together, they had 2 children, Georgette and André. It was fate that his eldest would be born with the first movie in 1888. Nintendo came a year later. The film was made by Etienne Marhet, a physiologist. But it was our old friend, Edward Muybridge, that inspired Marhet to develop this movie. You could say old Edward paved the way for both film and animation. Also in 1888, Méliès took his share of the shoe business with his wife's dowry, and got into show business, buying the Theatre Robert Houdin, creating 30 new illusions which revitalized the theater inspired by shows he saw in London. One of his best illusions was the recalcitrant decapitated man, or American spiritualistic mediums, in which a professor's head is cut off in the middle of a speech and continues talking until it is returned to his body. He began being a much more active part of the theater by being director, producer, writer, set, and costume designer, as well as inventing many of the magical tricks. Then, on December 28, 1895, Méliès saw his very first screening of a film by the Lumiere brothers and was hooked. He offered 10,000 francs for one of their cameras, but they refused. A year later, he ultimately stumbled upon this theatrograph, which was made by Robert W. Paul. The theatrograph was based on an invention that he reverse-engineered by the jerk himself, you know him and tolerate him, the Thomas Alva Edison. This was the same Thomas Edison that killed an elephant with electricity to prove his direct current was all that, seen here in his historical atrocity, electrocuting an elephant. Needless to say, good old Tesla won the war of currents. Back to the theatrograph. Its first details were published in the English Mechanic of February the 21st of 1895. By fate, Paul's first projection of the theatrograph was the same day as the Lumiere brothers' debut, a day before. In September 1896, Méliès, Corsten, and Relos patented the kinetograph Robert Houdin, an iron-cast camera projector, which he referred to as his coffee grinder and machine gun because of the noise it made. Méliès' first film was pretty simple. Just him and his buddies doing what the title suggests, a card party. In October of 1896, he made his first contribution to the film world, the stop cut. It's also known as a gene cut. Like most inventions, it came by accident. It's been said that it happened like this. He was in a shoot, and the camera jammed in the middle of a take. Then a Madeleine Bastille bus changed into a hearse, not to mention women changed into men. What he called the substitution trick was used in The Vanishing Lady. The fact he used an actual stage to do his films may as well pin him to be the first storyteller of film. He even avoided doing just one-shot scenes, which the first films did, and filmed things out of order, splicing scenes together in a chronologically pleasing narrative, just like today's directors. Méliès' films got so popular that when they hit the U.S., films like Cinderella, no, not that one! This one. When it hit, it made Edison jealous. And he was hell-bent on blocking screenings of future films due to his loss of money with his films. Couldn't take a little competition, could you greedy bastard? The next innovation in special effects was the double exposure, utilized in 1900's one-man band, using a feat compositing would do in today's films, actor multiplication. His most famous film, A Trip to the Moon, was released in 1902. It includes a celebrated scene in which a spaceship hits the man in the moon in the eye. It was loosely based on Jules Verne's From the Earth to the Moon, and H.G. Wells' The First Man in the Moon. This was his longest film produced yet, reeling at a total of 14 minutes in length. This particular film put Méliès on the map, which attracted certain greedy individuals to cash in on his success, like, of course, Thomas Edison, Sigmund Lubin, and Carl Laemmle. This pushed Georges to open an office for his company Star Films in New York to lessen the troubles of piracy. It also brought in his brother Gaston to help with the financial decisions. After other major successes, he made The Impossible Voyage in 1904, which was his tour de force, clocking at a good 24 minutes in length. According to film critic Louis Jacobs, the film expressed all of Méliès' talents, the complexity of his tricks, the resourcefulness with mechanical contrivances, the imaginativeness of the settings, and the sumptuous tableau made the film a masterpiece to this day. Soon, moviegoers began to think his work was becoming stale. They thought his formula for film was getting old, and his imitation of the trends was mediocre at best. Critics of today have pinpointed his dark years began in 1907. Yet again, our nemesis Edison demanded control over the industry of film and created the Motion Pictures Patent Company in 1908, requiring Star Films to produce 1,000 feet per week of film. The companies that joined the conglomerate were Edison, Vitagraph, Essanay, Selig, Lubin, Hallam, American Pathé, and Méliès Star Film Company, with Edison acting as president of the collective. The slow death of his film career began in 1910, after Star Films signed an agreement with the Gaumont Film Company to distribute all their films. But in autumn of that year, Méliès made a deal with Charles Pathé that would soon be his undoing. Méliès accepted a large amount of money to produce films, and in exchange, Pathé Frères would distribute and reserve the right to edit these films. Pathé also held a deed to both Méliès's home and his Montreal studio as part of the deal. What a dirty trick. Méliès immediately began production on more elaborate films, and among the 7 films that he produced in 1910 were The Adventures of Baron Munchausen and The Haunted Window. Despite the extravagance of these fairies that had been extremely popular just a decade before, both films were financial failures. After the third in the Fantastic Voyage trilogy, Conquest of the Pole was released in 1912, Trip to the Moon and Incredible Voyage were the other 2. It was not a financial success, and later pushed Pathé to continue editing his films, most notably Cinderella, which was originally 54 minutes, but was cut down to 33. Just like in Hugo, spoilers, he retired to selling toys until he died at the age of 76 on 8th December 1861. He left behind 531 films, however only 200 of those exist today. We are in debt to the movie magician. He paved the way for special effects in film as we know it.